Hello RPG fans, welcome to the realm of unlimited imagination. If you're like me, you love to think about what kind of character you play next in your favorite role-playing game. So today, we're going to do a character that's built for dealing damage. Massive damage out of the darkness. We're going to do a dexterity-based fighter. This character could be a standalone character in any party, any campaign. As presented today, it's meant to be part of a group called Clan Abdituran. This is the third build in the series that I'm presenting. If you want to check out those other two builds after you watch this one, that would be fun for you. You'd learn a lot, so try that out, check it out. The agenda with this, I want it to be detailed enough for new players, so I'm actually going to build the character in D&D Beyond. I'm going to potentially give inspiration to experienced players, talk through the details of how I understand these things to work, and maybe it'll inspire your next build. I'm going to talk through some role-playing ideas to inspire people's imagination. I love the role-playing part of the game as well. If you don't like that part, I'll put chapters in here. You could just skip it, click to the next thing. This character is going to be built to do massive damage. I'm going to include spells and items that I think are reasonably going to be used at any level in the damage calculations. It's not meant to maximize the damage calculations. It's just meant to give a reasonable approximation of what this character is able to do. So with that, I present to you the hero, Whistler. This is going to be a ranged combat attacker to use the darkness spell. Please remember as we get started, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel or leave comments down below. It really does help me a lot as a content creator. It helps this channel grow, helps more people see the videos. So please, any of those things that you could do, I would really appreciate if you would help me out. The concept, darkness is a fun spell. If you're operating out of darkness and you can see through it, it gives you advantage on your attacks, gives enemies disadvantage if they can't see through the darkness, and it makes spells really hard to target if the enemy spellcaster needs to see you to target the spell. So darkness is really fun, it's really powerful, and sometimes there's a person in the group that says, I would really love to do a darkness theme. Here's a character that you can use, put it in the darkness, it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to combine a lot of things. This is not meant to be the single most damage dealing character that you could possibly build. That's not what I do. I build for the most effect in the game. So we're going to combine the idea of darkness with the idea of crit fishing. Crit fishing is where you take extended critical range, you use elven accuracy to get a lot of rolls, and you just roll a lot of dice looking for critical hits and take feats and things to enable high damage critical hits. That's what we're going to do with the build. We're also going to want to do crafting. So this character is going to be broad-based. We're going to do good damage, crit fishing, good skills, and really excellent crafting features that you could use, or you could do something different if you want to build this character in a different way. That's fine. In terms of gameplay, this is honestly going to be the easiest character that I've ever built. The turns are going to be simple. We're going to have Warlock levels. We're going to have Hex. We're going to put Hex on a target, and we're going to fill it with arrows. That's it. The choice of what you do with your turn is basically which target am I going to destroy. That's it. However, in building this character, I will say this is the most calculations I've ever done. I did this character build, I think, 7 different ways with 7 different calculations. And in the end, I settled on this as the best fit for the group. So just to kind of have a laugh up front, it's going to be easy to play, but man, it was hard to decide on the build. With each of these character builds, I like to give a little chart. I'm an engineer. I love graphics. So let's give the chart to this character. I give him 3 combat rolls, 2 exploration rolls, and a social roll, and I rate those on a scale of 1 to 10. Damage for this character, we're going to give that a 9 out of 10. I don't give a 9 out of 10 lightly. Ranged attacks can't keep up with close combat attacks in 2024. There's plenty of other content creators that are calculating the same thing. So this could be optimized even further if it was a close combat character. We'll actually talk about that. I'll present damage calculations and I'll show you that even with great things that we can do with ranged attacks, we're still going to be outdone by melee attacks if you wanted to build the character that way. But I think 9 out of 10, just for the reliability of the attacks that we're going to do are going to land every time, and we're going to be able to do damage at long range. It's going to be fantastic. For support and control, this character really isn't built for that. There's going to be some features that are going to help, but we're going to give those a rating of a 2. In exploration, it's an 8. We don't have expertise on this character, but fighters are a bit overtuned in 2024. They actually can use their second wind ability to increase skill rolls now, which is great. And it's going to allow us to make key rolls with a high probability of success. So we're going to give those exploration things an 8 out of 10. In terms of problem solving, investigation, having skills, arcana, knowledge, things like that, we're not going to be that good at it. We'll give it a 4. Influence, we do have charisma on this character, but we're not going to be built for influence, so we'll give that a 3, below average. Let's meet Whistler. Whistler's a Shadowkai mercenary. He's the one you want to hire if you need an experienced fighter. Sneak in, make havoc, abscond with the prize. He's a smith. He makes his own arrowheads, and he carefully carves a notch in each edge. When he shoots these arrows, they make a characteristic whistling sound when he fires them. I love role-playing in the game. I love characters to have their trademark things. So right here at level 1, I'm going to give Whistler the reason for his name. When he shoots an arrow, it makes this little whistling sound. It doesn't have any game effect. Probably not going to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. We're not going to take skills and abilities that make that happen, but it's a thing. You can role play it, you can explain it. It doesn't have to have a game effect to be fun. Whistler got hired as one of 2 bodyguards for Alaga Nase. She took a trip to a secret Abdituran black market. Along the way, they have a lot of conversations late at night. He confines his desire to be the most feared, most renowned bow for hire in the land. I think of this guy as a borderline villain. He doesn't really want to be a hero or a villain, but he's kind of in that role where I just want to be the best. I want everybody to know that nobody's better than me. Alaga shares that in some sense, so she talks to him about some of the dark beliefs that she's been studying. Again, we have to have a reason for these characters to want to take Warlock, so we're kind of weaving that in where he's already thinking about Warlock type things as a level 1 fighter. So they share these conversations. The raid on the Abdituran doesn't go well for the defensive characters, and our team gets locked away. The way I've proposed to play this team is either start it as a level 3 team with the history of doing a jailbreak together from levels 1 to 3, or if you want to do that, it's an idea that you build a character at level 1 and you do the jailbreak as a way to quickly level these characters to 3. They pick up gear and stuff along the way, so it's a fun way to kind of get through those early levels if DMs want an idea. So he's going to make his pact without a second thought. And I like imaginative things. So he's going to take the Hex ability, and I like to think of his Hex as being kind of tangible. It might be like this slick, oily magic that sticks to characters, and when he retargets it with his bonus action, it's going to like jump from one target to another, just kind of appear, and it reveals weak points for him to shoot at. So have fun with the role play for this character, and be descriptive with your Hex spell and things like that. It's fun. The problem with building this character was really around the feats. There are so many good dexterity-based feats in 2024. When I tried to figure out which ones to use, we've got Mage Slayer, Elven Accuracy, Sharpshooter, Crossbow Expert, Piercer. Resilient Dexterity is even good on a lot of characters, and it's a plus dex. Sentinel is a good plus dex, even Speedster and things like that. There are so many good feats that give you additional dexterity. It comes down to deciding which ones are we going to put on this character over the terms of the character build. And in addition to that, Great Weapon Master, if we use a longbow, it has the heavy property, and it can take advantage of Great Weapon Master, so could a heavy crossbow. So how do we work that in? It does require a 13 strength if you want to take Great Weapon Master. It's a requirement for the feat. So it's a lot of juggling. With my calculations, what I came up with in the end, Elven Accuracy has the most impact of any plus dex feat in the game. Getting that third roll when you have advantage and finding ways to always have that advantage give more damage than any other feat. Great Weapon Master is the second most reliable increase in damage. If you're using a heavy weapon like a longbow and you can do that damage reliably you're going to get a lot of hits with Elven Accuracy, and every one of them is going to have proficiency bonus added to damage. So it stacks up super fast. It's a very reliable way to increase your damage on every hit, whether it's a crit or not. Once you've enabled crit, Piercer becomes a good feat. It's going to add another weapon die of damage on a critical hit. It also allows you to re-roll one low roll. I'm not going to calculate that in anywhere, but it's a nice little effect that you get also from Piercer. Mage Slayer, I think, is the next feat, and that one, it doesn't give us damage, but it gives us a form of control. If a caster is going to be concentrating on a spell, we hit them, we're going to do high damage with each hit. It's going to cause a concentration check, which will be at disadvantage, and we're going to take this feat at higher levels specifically to disrupt enemy mages. It also gives us this kind of legendary save during a for each short rest, once per short rest. So it's nice if you get possessed or some crazy thing and you fail the roll and can't re-roll it. You just say, okay, I succeed on that one, and it's a awesome defensive feature. So those are the feats that I'm going to end up taking. I really looked at Sharpshooter, but then I found a way where Sharpshooter is almost obsolete. If you want to find out how to make Sharpshooter obsolete, just keep listening. I'll explain it in about 15 minutes. Crossbow Expert would allow the heavy crossbow. That increases your damage die from the D8 from a longbow to a D10. But when I did my calculations, it really wasn't worth it. It added less, and it took up a feat just to enable it. We don't really care too much about the attack within 5 feet business, and we're not going to use hand crossbows. So in the end, we're going to stick with the longbow build, no crossbows. So with our ability scores, that sets the targets for the ability scores. We need the 13 in strength to qualify for Great Weapon Master. We're going to max our dexterity. We can still get 14 in charisma and con, and 9 wisdom. And if we take resilient wisdom much later in the build, we'll round that off to 10. So that's going to be kind of the build. If you were starting this character at level 1 and you wanted to enable crafting all the way from level 1, you would have to buy a short bow, leather armor, keep it to the cheaper stuff, a couple short swords, and then buy a bunch of tools so that you can start your crafting. If you're not going to do crafting, or your GM doesn't like that, then buy a longbow, studded leather armor, buy the more expensive stuff, buy yourself a pack. Remember to get your forgery kit. You can get that. We're going to take a Charlatan background, so we can take forgery kit and thieves tools. You need all that stuff to be able to operate with all of this character's flexibility. So let's go into the character builder now and see what it would look like to build this character for the first couple levels here in D&D Beyond. First level, we're going to pick Fighter. For our skills, we're going to take Acrobatics because that goes along with our dexterity-based build. We're going to take Survival because nobody else in the group is really going to have it. We're going to take Blind Fighting. Now, Archery would seem like the premier thing to do here if we're going to build a ranged attack character. This +2 bonus to attack is really a strong thing. But when you do the calculations, you find out that when you have Elven Accuracy and you're rolling 3 dice every time you attack, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. This character is going to have a secondary tactic where they're going to use an ever-smoking bottle. When darkness doesn't work, we're going to cover the field in smoke. So we need blind fighting on this character to be able to fight in the smoke. It's going to allow you to see within 10 feet. So if they pop the smoke, you walk up within 10 feet. You take disadvantage if you're attacking with a ranged weapon within 5 feet. So you do have to be 10 feet away, but you can be 10 feet away. Your blind sight works. You can see them. You get advantage, and everything works like it's supposed to. So blind sight is, in my opinion, the only way that we can play this character effectively with the group. And if you're playing this character as a solo character in a party, I still think blind sight is the best way to go. It opens up so many options, and with this build, we're going to have access to that archery feature later. Anyway, here we're going to grab the Charlatan background. Criminal might look better. It gets you the alertness feat, thieves tools, a lot of stuff, but I really like the skilled feature as an origin feat. I know when you look at it, it doesn't feel like skilled is adding any power to your character. It gives you more skills, but it doesn't really give you alertness. affects the game. Every time you roll initiative, it has impact. Toughness gives you more hit points. It impacts things very directly. But I like skilled a lot. So I like Charlatan. It's going to give us sleight of hand, which is good for the character. Deception, we have decent charisma. Deception is fine. Forgery kit is nice. And the ability scores are very applicable. We can get a +2 in dexterity, a +1 in constitution. We're happy with all this. The skilled feat lets us take arcana, so now crafting is enabled. We can take stealth, so now we can be the rogue for the party, right? We're going to have arcana for crafting, stealth, and then here, if you wanted to, you could take thieves' tools. And there's a reason why you might want to take thieves' tools here. I'm going to be Shadar Kai, so I'm going to take thieves' tools with the Shadar Kai species. But if your GM for some reason didn't like Shadar Kai or didn't want that in the game, then you could take thieves' tools here. I'm going to grab athletics because it's a nice fit with the character. We have strength, and you're scout, and you might need to be athletic at some point. Personality traits, I'm giving him a fearsome reputation with those whistling arrows. A mercenary, I love the idea of this guy, even when he's not directly being paid and he's part of a group or whatever. I think he's still going to be very mercenary in his tactics. I think of it like a guy with a gun, except this character is only the gun. Somebody else has to point him and shoot him. He's going to put down great damage, but he's not the leader. He's not making the decisions. Somebody says attack, and he just goes crazy on whatever he's pointed at. So again, in my imagination, these characters start to take shape, and Whistler for me takes shape as kind of this, hey, you know, if he's working for a Laganase, you tell me where the arrows go, then I'll put them there, right? Again, it builds some kind of character and personality here. You don't have to play the character this way, but this is just how it took shape in my mind. Silent. We're taking sign language on all these characters. The ability to do sign language enables something for your character that's unique. Some people love to do role-playing. They love to do a voice, an accent. They love to role-play that stuff out. Some people aren't as comfortable with an accent. If you're one of those people, this is an excellent way to role-play your character without having to do the accent or doing silly stuff. So you say, you know, Whistler's going to come back. He's going to do sign language. He's going to inform the party in the coded sign language what he saw up ahead. So you get to role-play your character in a way where it's interesting, it's unique. He's talking in the sign language, but you don't have to do crazy voice or something like that. So this character for me is that. And for the last thing, I'm just going to make him a music fan. He's an acrobat, so maybe he can dance or do backflips or something like that. Or maybe he just likes to listen in. For flaws, we're just going to give him insecure as a flaw. He's trying to be the biggest, baddest, best bowman that ever existed. And sometimes that might come out in kind of inappropriate context. So let's say you're in a social setting and somebody says, well, I never heard of you. Well, I've heard this guy's the best bowman. I don't know who you are. He may overreact to that in some way, trying to prove his value to himself or other people. So occasionally this insecurity might come out in an inappropriate time. Again, I build character flaws just to inform roleplay. Do whatever you like for your character. Shadar Kai, and the reason I say your GM might not want Shadar Kai is because this race is busted. It's an S tier race, and sometimes GMs just don't like to deal with the S tier stuff. But size is going to be medium, your speed is going to be normal. Blessing of the Raven Queen is the most broken part of this character. As a bonus action, you can magically teleport 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. You can use it a number of times per day equal to your proficiency. This is basically the Misty Step feature that you can use twice per long rest at level 1. As your proficiency bonus goes up, you get more free castings of it. It's not a spell. It doesn't take up your leveled spell slot for the turn. And you're resistant to all damage on the turn after you do it. So, until the turn after you do it. It's just too powerful. It means that for characters that get grappled or restrained, let's say you get put in a web spell and you're restrained, you can simply teleport to somewhere where you're not webbed and you're out. It's that easy. If you're grappled, you can simply not be grappled. If a Tyrannosaurus has you in its jaws, you can simply be somewhere else. You do have to be able to see the point where you need to teleport to, So if you've been swallowed by something, it's not so useful. But it's so powerful as a feature. So with this character, I would say if your GM says, I don't allow Shadow Archive because this busted feature, this could easily be played as a drow elf. A wood elf, I think, would be my preference. It could be a sea elf. It could be any kind of elf. It does have to be an elf to qualify for elven accuracy, which is this sort of the hinge point for this whole build. So you can't build it without being an elf, but you could be any normal elf and you'd be just fine. But Shadow Archive brings the most to the table, and it's from, published content that's mainstream published content. So I don't feel bad about selecting that. It's also going to enable us for crafting. If GM said this is the reason why Shadow Archive are banned, you could also just say, okay, I'm not going to use it. Or limit it to once per day. I'm fine with it. This is not, you're not taking the class because you want to abuse Blessing of the Raven Queen. You're taking it for other reasons. So negotiate with your DM, even if he says it's not allowed. You get advantage on saving throws against charm condition. You get the perception skill for free. You get resistance to necrotic damage. Those are all nice little benefits that you get. And then after every long rest, you can pick 2 tools here that we can use, weapons or tools. So here's where we can grab our Thieves tool proficiency and crafting proficiencies like wood carver's tools, smith's tools, whatever it is that we want to use for the day. When we wake up in the morning, we decide what it is, and we're just proficient with those tools for the day, and off we go. So we can craft anything in the game. It's super powerful. When I come here at first to the point buy method, I take my charisma to 13, my dexterity and strength are maxed out, and my constitution is 12, and I'm out of points. And as I'm looking at this, I think with this character, I'm just not satisfied with a 12 constitution. I think we really need to make that into a 14. So I take the strength down to a 13, put those points over in constitution and wisdom. Now we do have a +1 from our background in constitution, so we only needed a 13 there to turn it into a 14. So with that adjustment, then I have these 2 free points. And I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking, and I can't decide. Putting the 2 points in wisdom is nice. It gives you +1 to all your perception checks. It would give you another +1 to your wisdom saving throws. It feels pretty strong, but I can also round this charisma out to 13. And we do have deception skills and some other stuff that we might want to take advantage of. We're a charlatan. If we want to imitate people, this extra charisma is probably going to be more beneficial for the role-playing part of charlatan. So in the end, I put it in charisma. You can put it wherever you want. For the starting equipment here, again, I like the forgery kit and some tools and thieves tools and just being able to start that crafting all the way from level 1 and start crafting custom arrows and a +1 weapon for yourself right away. That means that we'll take studded leather and a short bow, or just regular leather armor and a short bow, no studded leather because it's too expensive. And then we'll put some arrows and just a backpack, and off we go to adventuring. Probably need more than 20 arrows. Just buy enough arrows that it's not an issue that you have to discuss with your GM during your adventures. So here we are at level 1. It's a normal level 1 fighter looking character, right? We just built the archer with blind sight. Other than having the blind sight as the feature, it's pretty much how you would build a dexterity based fighter at level 1. Nothing too special. But we've enabled all the future things that we're going to build. That charisma gets us the ability to multi-class into Warlock. So here we go, level 2, Warlock. I like Eldritch Mind here. We don't need Pact of the Blade. It's not going to be a charisma-based character, so we don't need to make our weapons charisma-based. Eldritch Mind is going to give us concentration, advantage on concentration checks, which I think is fantastic. We are going to use Hex with this character, so maintaining concentration on that is not critical, but yeah, it's better if we maintain it. Why not take it? There's other features we could have, and you could trade it out at level 2 Warlock for something else, but I like it. I'm going to keep it. We don't really need any specific cantrips. We're not going to use Eldritch Blast. If we're at range, we're for sure going to use the bow, not Eldritch Blast, so we'll use the bow. We'll take Blade Ward as one of our cantrips. Blade Ward, in certain situations, we can give the enemies a -D4 to hit us. If we find ourselves needing to tank some hits to get things under control, we can use that. As our concentration spell. We can also use create bonfire. That way, since we're the kind of the scout guide type character, we can light a fire if we need to. We can cantrip it, but it's not really something we're going to do very often. It's more of a role play thing. Hex here is we're going to pick up Hex, and we're going to use that all the time. For our level 1 spell, I put Comprehend Languages just because it's nice to have somebody in the group who can do that. We'll add some special ammunition. He's starting to craft some walloping ammunition, adamantine arrows, maybe a few of those, maybe a few +1 arrows. Again, this stuff's not critical. If you could have crafted +1 arrows, you could have crafted a +1 longbow, but I want to put these on the character just to kind of talk about them and show you guys what this special ammunition can do. And we'll get to the best and most important type of special ammunition, and you guys are going to, for those who haven't noticed, I think it's going to be a shocker. It was to me when I realized how powerful the ammunition could be. So with Warlock, I like the Eldritch Mind. This character doesn't need concentration, so you can make use of Hex if you want. You can skip it if you want. Pact of the Chain is cool. You can grab a familiar. Warlocks have access to pretty cool familiars. If that's in line with how you want to play your character, have an awesome pet, feel free to do that. When you take your second level of Warlock, you can trade out that level 1 invocation for the better level 2 invocations. Grab Alertness feat. There's just tons of stuff you can do with that. Do what you want with that invocation. I like the advantage on saves. At level 2 out of combat, we're going to be scouting, stealth, decent perception, athletics, acrobatics. If we find something that needs to be investigated, we're probably going to turn that over to other people in the group to investigate. But for us, scouting, seeing, reporting back to the party is pretty good. Pick locks, disable traps, stuff like that with Thieves' tools. This is the character for the job. Combat's simple. Put on Hex, shoot. There you go. Longbow if darkness is up and running. Short bow if not. Short bow and short sword chain Vex. So just to be clear, eventually to make this character work, we want to have advantage all the time. Advantage is the single biggest thing to increasing your damage in the entire game. So short bow, if you hit, your next attack has advantage. Short sword, same feature, Vex. So if you're at long range, do a short bow, chain that Vex. If you kill your target and then you have to attack something else, obviously Vex doesn't chain between targets, it's only on the same target. But it's a way that you can attack a target, and once you hit it, you're pretty much into it till you kill it. It's a way to generate advantage when you don't have another way to generate it. So it's pretty powerful. So if we just look at level 2, with a short bow, we'd have a d6 and an extra d6 for that Hex. That'd be 10 damage average on a hit. 60% chance to hit on average without advantage would be 6 damage on average. Again, because we can't guarantee advantage at these low levels, 6 damage per round is nothing to write home about, but it's okay. Dual wield, we would have 2 attacks. One of them would be 2d6 plus 3. One of them would be just a d6 plus another d6. The plus 3 goes away with your offhand. I don't feel the need to use a dagger or nick or something like that. Remember, if you want to use nick, it has to be a finesse weapon. You have to use finesse with your offhand weapon in order to take advantage of Elven accuracy later and all the things we want to do with the character. But for now, dual wielding for me is just another short sword. It's chaining that Vex over and over and over again. And I don't mind. I don't have something else to do with my bonus action. I put Hex on one turn, and then after Hex is applied, if I don't need to move the Hex, I can make as many attacks as I want with 2-weapon fighting. The build is really meant to be that move your Hex, attack with the bow, but you could dual wield against bigger targets that are going to last multiple rounds. Dual wielding is going to be better damage. 17 damage on average for a round, 60% to hit, puts you at about 10 damage. Almost doubles your damage with dual wielding if you don't need your bonus action for something else. Or you could take a dagger with Nick, that's fine too, and then you could still use your bonus action for moving the Hex. Taking hits at this level, at level 2, you're a fighter. You have second wind, you can bring your own hit points back. If you're at a party, focusing damage on one enemy at a time is a proven way to manage combats. Focus fire is a thing. When the enemy can't focus fire, if you give the enemy multiple targets and they're spreading their damage out across your whole party, if it's good for you to focus fire, it would also be good for your enemy to focus fire. So spreading out the damage is sometimes good. This character is fine at lower levels if you need to be in melee, take a few hits, get it back with second wind. It's all fine. You can do that. And again, if you're wielding a short sword and dagger, you can make your 2 attacks, attack, nick attack, and still have your bonus attack action to use for whatever. Second wind. So you can take a hit at low levels. Not that big of a deal. I think in terms of roleplay, Whistler is really going to lean into the idea of the Warlock. He likes it. He's made a pact with a darker power to increase his own. That's fine. He doesn't mind to scout ahead. In terms of leadership, it's not that he won't go ahead of the party. He just, again, in my mind, he's a character that wants to be told what to do. Just tell me where to go. Tell me what you want. I'll go take care of it. I'll get the job done. Oh, you want me to go steal that? All right, Charlatan, dress up, imitate somebody else, go in, steal what he wants, come out. I think this is a fun character to play like that. If you want to play him differently, you could play him like Superman. I mean, this character is going to be good in combat, out of combat. He's a do-it-all kind of character, crafts his own stuff. Could be a lone wolf if you wanted him to be that. Let's talk about special arrows here. Jeremy Crawford. I have a question. Ranger has +1 arrows and a bow +2. Do they stack, or do you take the higher? Crawford answers. Bonuses stack unless a feature or item tells you otherwise. Magic ammunition loses its magic when it hits. It doesn't lose its magic when it misses. Just so you know, if you take a shot with a magic arrow and it misses, if you can retrieve it, you can have it again. But if it hits, then the magic is gone. All right, here's the big reveal. Winged ammunition. Ranged attack rolls made with this ammunition ignore half and 3/4 cover. In addition, attacks at long range don't impose disadvantage on ranged weapon attack rolls made with this ammunition. That's the better half of Sharpshooter feat. This is why I feel with confidence I can skip Sharpshooter and still have it. Once my character crafts, let's say 10 or 20 arrows of winged ammunition, if you've played a character with Sharpshooter, you know when it comes up, it's great to have. Probably 8 out of 10 shots, Sharpshooter doesn't even matter. But for the 1 or 2 out of 10 where it does matter, it's nice to say, I ignore that cover, or I shoot at 85, fine, I don't care, it's fine. I don't take disadvantage at long range. Now, you just have this winged ammunition, and if you need the Sharpshooter feat for that particular shot, you just used up some of your winged ammunition. This is so good. I would have some of these on from a very low level. Craft them, make them, put them on your character. Walloping ammunition, this is a 3 out of 10. It's kind of lame, but there is a fun thing that we can do here, right? Ammunition packs a wallop. Creature hit by the arrow must save on DC 10 strength save or be knocked prone. Enemies are trying to come toward us. Our group is going to have a whole lot of features that push things away and make it harder for them to get within the darkness or push them out of the darkness once they get there. So with this, one of your allies pushes an enemy out of the darkness. You hit them with a longbow. The longbow feature is to slow them. And then you use a walloping arrow and also knock them prone. Remember to knock them prone in your last attack. You have disadvantage with a ranged weapon against prone enemies, so you don't want to do that. Knock them prone with your last hit. If they're prone and slowed and pushed away, they probably don't get back to the party. If they use their action to dash to get back to the party, then the sequence in the next round, again, push them away, slow them with the longbow, walloping ammunition. It's a DC 10 strength check. The likelihood that they get knocked prone is low. It's a waste of money, but it's funny if it happens. Adamantine arrows, for a moment, I thought was the most ridiculously overpowered thing I'd ever seen come to the game. This weapon or piece of ammunition is made of adamantine. Whenever this weapon or piece of ammunition hits an object, the hit is a critical hit. Oh my God. Build these arrows, and every arrow you shoot, whenever it hits, it is a critical hit. Is a critical hit. But then I realized that the word object has a definition, and actually what this says is when the ammunition hits an object, it's a critical hit. So with that in mind, using the definition of object, I wish they'd made object a highlighted word so you could have referenced the rules. But it's not a critical hit on anything. It's just a critical hit on a door or a treasure chest or the bars of a jail cell if you shoot them. So you can hit objects. Now, it's not going to be great for combat, but if you need to break through a door or knock off a lock, or there's a lot of times in the game where if you just auto crit on a character that's built to do high damage on a critical hit, you're going to destroy doors, walls, whatever you want to destroy with a couple arrows. So build some adamantine arrows. Situationally can be pretty stinking cool. Arrow of Slaying. This is a very rare item. You could craft arrows of slaying, or you could craft a +3 weapon. I don't think there's ever a scenario where you would rather have ammunition of slaying as opposed to, a +3 weapon that just lasts forever. For the same reason, I don't think you ever craft ammunition above +1. It's nice to have that stacking bonus where you have a weapon and also have the pluses, but you don't need it with this character. You'll see, you don't need the bonuses. So ammunition of slaying, at really high levels, I mean, if you're playing like a level 15, level 21 shot, I would talk to the GM about having some of these. If you get a hit, DC 17 save or take an extra 6d10 damage, that damage does stack on a crit the way I understand it. So if you got a critical hit with an arrow of slaying, 66 extra damage on that single hit. If you had 5 of these arrows of slaying and in one turn you did your action surge and 3 attacks and then 3 attacks again, and 5 of those attacks were arrows of slaying, you'd do something like 400 points of damage to a dragon. Off the hook. So on one hand, it's stupid powerful. On the other hand, I really just don't think in the game that you could ever reasonably afford ammunition of slaying. Other than having 1 or 2 arrows that you build for a specific purpose, I think it's out. 1 craft is 10 ammunition, that's defined, so for every 1 craft you would get 10 arrows. But since the ammunition by definition loses its magic upon impact, you're not going to want to spend a lot of time and effort on these. The things that you're going to craft are this winged ammunition. That's going to be extremely relevant in gameplay, and when you need it and you have it, it's going to be a game changer. This stuff is just trinket stuff that it's cool to have. All right. Now, some people, when I do this next part, y'all are going to cringe. If you hate when anime characters call out their shot, when they say what they're going to do and then take 15-second pause and then swing their fist in an anime style, skip this part. If you hate it, skip it. But this character could easily be an anime style character, right? For a normal arrow, you don't do anything. You just let the arrow whistle in and do its job. But whenever you pull out this special ammunition, it's worth a called shot. You role play that out. You yell out, like for the winged ammunition, distant eagle dive, and like shoot this arrow 400 feet. Fatal hawk talon if you're using like magical +2 ammunition. Walloping arrows could be like a walloping rhino charge or something like that. You can make up names for your arrows, and when you decide to use one of your special arrows, call it out, make a big deal out of it. Do role play. Sorry for the people who cringe at that kind of thing, but I think it'd be fun. This character could be a very anime style character. All right, let's talk about the build. I'm going now from level 3 to 8. Level 3 has to be Warlock 2. That's where we're going to pick up Devil's Sight. That's going to allow us to see in the darkness. We're going to pick up 2 more invocations. So Devil's Sight's going to be one of them. And for the other, I like the Crafter Feat. The Crafter Feat's going to allow us to pick up 3 more tools and get a 20% discount on all non-magical materials. Everything that you buy for crafting, when I read the book, it's all non-magical materials that you are making magical during the craft. So if you're going to spend $20,000 to build an item, instead it costs $16,000. Saving $4,000 on a craft is huge. It's going to enable building things much faster in the game. It's going to reduce the cost. You only need 1 crafter per group. So for this entire group of 5 characters that I'm building, this is the only one that I'm ever going to give the crafter feat to. But I like it on 1 character, so I'm going to put it here. But if you're building this character for your own purposes, at this level, you could have the character be, it's still taking 2 Warlock levels. It's surprisingly effective to have 2 Warlock levels. It's better than Ranger. You could take Ranger to have Hunter's Mark, but taking Warlock for Hex is almost equally as good. And the fact that you can pick up 3 of these invocations, you could pick up 3 extra origin feats, is better than anything that Ranger has to offer for 2 levels. So in going through this, if you're doing this character build, you could customize this however you want. For this particular group, Devil Sight, crafting. And then fighting forever after, I originally thought that we would just take this character all the way up in fighter, but we'll talk about why that might not make sense. But at least through level 14, it's going to be fighter. Crafting. When we talk about crafting, when we get crafting fully enabled, remember that this character is an elf. They only need 4 hours of sleep for a long rest. If you do 12 hours of adventure day, you can do 8 hours of crafting, 4 hours of meditation. Every single day that you adventure can still be a crafting day for Whistler. Or he can help another character do crafting. So it's really good. And like I said, the crafter feature, I think, adds a lot. All right, so let's go back and start leveling this character up to 8. We'll go all the way up to 8, and then we'll check in again, and we'll talk about damage and see what's going to happen there. All right, take that Devil Sight. And for the second invocation here, we can take the alert feat. In the end, I settle on the crafter feat. I think it's better for the group. And again, we could have all these tools through Shadow Kai, but this also means that if you didn't play Shadow Kai, let's say you played a Wood Elf instead of a Shadow Kai, this would be where you could fully enable your crafting with a different race and not have to have Shadow Kai for that. All right, for spells, I don't know. We could pick up another spell here for level 1. There's a lot of things. In the end, I decided to take Bane. There could be a situation where you would want to put Bane on an enemy instead of Hex. Your charisma's pretty low. The DC save is pretty easy for most enemies to make, but who knows? Maybe Bane would be a good thing to do every now and then. Round out your tools here. If you're missing any tools, switch over to a Longbow and studded leather armor by level 3. That all makes sense. Since I added some arrows at lower levels, I didn't add a +1 Longbow to this character at level 3 because we're making arrows first. I do think that having those winged arrows is more important than a +1 Longbow. As strange as that sounds, I think that's the first thing that you craft for this character for himself. At character level 4, we're going to be Fighter 2. Now we get Action Surge, and I'm not going to put Action Surge in any of my damage calculations, but once per short rest, we could take an attack action the second time. It's okay at first, but once we get to 2 attacks and later 3 attacks, Action Surge makes for a massive damage round. It's a great feature of fighters. It's been a reason for a 2-level fighter dip for a long time. Can't do a spell action with it anymore, but we're not interested in spell actions with this character anyway. Tactical Mind. This is one of the features, I think, for a fighter that's too good. It's overtuned. Roll a d10. When you roll a skill check, once you know that you're not succeeding at the skill check, you can choose to use Tactical Mind. You can use an instance of your second wind. You have to have second wind available to activate it. You roll a d10 and add that to the roll. If it succeeds, you use up the second wind. If the roll is still a fail, you don't even use up the second wind. I think it would be fine if you used your second wind to get the roll. I think the fact that you don't even use it if it's not a success makes it too powerful. But it's a feature. We have it. We'll take it. Now for a critical lock pick, trap removal, stealth check, whatever. You roll stealth, you get a 12. You're like, I don't think that's going to be good enough for what I'm trying to do. Just add another d10, make that a 17, whatever. Use your second wind for that. It allows you to get higher skill rolls than you should without needing expertise. So it's pretty good. It's not as good as expertise, but it's pretty strong. Here at level 4, we'll add that +1 Longbow. We should have that by now for sure. And it's nice. We have decent damage here. And at level 4, we need to go talk about the Ever-Smoking Bottle because this is a tactic that we can use with this party. When I talked through Dalen, if you want to go watch the Dalen build, I explained everything that you need to know about the Ever-Smoking Bottle. But if that's used, Whistler has Blind Sight. Get within 10 feet, take full advantage of the heavy obscurement. You can see with Blind Sight, Don't go within 5 feet and use a ranged weapon. That's bad. If you're already within 5 feet, remember, if the enemy can't specifically see you, doesn't have a way to see within the smoke, if you're 5 feet away, you're obscured, you can simply step away. There's no attack of opportunity because it requires the enemy to see you to make the attack of opportunity. If they can't see you, they can't make an attack. That simple. Busted. Too good. So the character is fully enabled for the ever smoking bottle. Let's take a third level of fighter here. Fighter subclass, only one option, champion. That gives us an improved critical range. Now we crit on a 19 or a 20. Beautiful. Enabling those crits. We also get remarkable athlete, which gives us advantage on initiative rolls. We've already got a character with high dex. We're going to have good average initiative rolls. Now we have advantage on initiative rolls. Fantastic. Also gives you advantage on strength athletics checks. And we have 13 strength on the character, so we're not bad at athletics. We took that, remember we took that as a skill, so it's a proficient skill, and we've got decent strength, so should be a remarkable athlete, even as an archer with dexterity main stat. Nice. For free. You can move immediately after a critical hit. We'll be getting a lot of critical hits on this character, but we're probably not going to need to move very much, so that's kind of a ribbon feature. All right, let's take level 4 of fighter, and here at level 4, we're going to take another weapon mastery. I'll put dagger in for that nick and officially make it part of the build. And then for the feat, there's no other thing that we should take than elven accuracy. Take dexterity, and the accuracy of elves is legendary, especially that of elven archers and spellcasters. You have uncanny aim that relies on precision rather than brute force. Increase your dexterity by 1. Whenever, there's other skills, but it's dex for this character. When you have an advantage on an attack roll, using dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, you can re-roll one of the dice. Most people play this as you're always going to re-roll the lowest dice anyway. So you roll 3 dice all at once, and you take the highest one as the result. Some people call it super advantage, but that's what happens. You roll 2 dice, the lowest one you re-roll, and even if you got 17 and you hit, you're still going to re-roll that 3rd dice because you're looking for crits. We've got that 19 and 20 crit feature enabled, so we're going to roll 3 dice, and we're going to constantly look for the critical hits. So roll 3 dice at once when you make an attack with advantage. That's the cornerstone of this build, and we're going to have advantage all the time. Either in darkness or with an ever-smoking bottle. The tricks and tactics that these characters have for advantage is sincere. Furthermore, if you don't have advantage from one of those tricks, you just switch out to a short bow or short swords, and you have Vex, and you have advantage. Chain those together. Smoke your targets with elven accuracy. Let's talk about bastions real quick. Bastions enable at character level 5. I like a workshop and smithy. They interact with crafting in a nice way. At level 9, I like greenhouse and garden to get free healing potions every bastion turn. And then for this character, you would look at a pub for 13. I'm not going to include this in any of the damage calculations, but you've got this Bigby's Burden drink that you can have where you get enlarged for 24 hours. I see no reason why you couldn't take some of this from your pub and carry it with you and be enlarged whenever you want. And that would give you an extra D4 on all your damage dice. That D4 would double on a critical hit, like any damage dice does. And 2d4 extra on a critical hit's another 5 damage. It's more stuff that we could have for free, right? But that's a long way off at higher levels, so let's get back to the build and look at what we're really doing back here. We would want to add bracers of archery at some point. Bracers of archery only work with longbows now. They don't work with crossbows or any other ranged weapons, so since we're a longbow build, we could take advantage of that. That's 2 more damage on every hit that we ever land. Doesn't multiply with crits, but we'll take it as base damage to keep things stacking in the right direction. Build's looking good so far. Longbow's hitting for +7 if we have a +1 longbow, +7 damage. Taking the next couple levels, taking us up to level 8 total. When we get level 5 fighter, Our attack action now does 2 attacks. Awesome. Tactical shift, when we activate second wind, we can move half our speed without provoking opportunity attacks. That could be useful if we're pinned in melee with a character that we really don't want to be in melee with. We can use our second wind, gain some hit points back, tactically shift out, all as a bonus action, and then still have our action to shoot them full of arrows. So, could use it if we need to. Situationally useful. And then for the ability score improvement here at level 6, this is where we're going to take Great Weapon Master. Our dexterity is 18, but there's nothing else that's going to improve our damage more than just adding our proficiency to all of our longbow shots. So when you hit a creature with a weapon that has the heavy property as part of the attack action on your turn, a lot of text there, right? Heavy weapon as an attack action on your turn. Not on a bonus action, not on an attack of opportunity, not when it's not your turn, and not when it's not an attack action, right? So if you take a magical action to activate something to do a strike, heavy weapon wouldn't apply. Okay, but with our longbow, we're taking the attack action, we're making multiple hits. All of those hits during our attack action get this benefit. If we do action surge, that counts as an attack action, and we would get Great Weapon Master on our longbow shots under action surge. Fantastic. The second part of it, Hue. Immediately after you score a critical hit with a melee weapon, or reduce a creature to 0 hit points with one, you make one attack with the same weapon as a bonus action. If this could work with a longbow, it would be so good. It would be so good, but it specifically says melee, weapon, and then when it says, or reduce an enemy to hit 0 hit points with one, so it implies that it always works with only a melee weapon. Too bad. It would be fantastic if we could get that extra bonus action, but no go. So at level 8, I'm going to talk about the Ioun Stone of Agility here, and I'm also going to talk about the Vicious Bow, Vicious Longbow. So I'm going to add the Ioun Stone here for the purposes of the character build, not the Vicious Longbow yet, but I'll show you how all that stuff's going to work. So we can attune that and go up to 20 dexterity, and that will allow us lots of time. Remember, we took the Great Weapon Master, and instead we could have taken our dexterity to 20, but we take Great Weapon Master, and then we use this Ioun Stone. If we don't have it, you're going to see. It's not a big deal. It adds a little bit to the build, but it's almost insignificant. Take it or leave it. Vicious Longbow is the thing that you want. It's the thing that you want to be crafting. It's the ultimate item in the game, and we need it. Let's check out this character at level 8, and then we'll talk about why. So by level 8, we're good at scouting, stealth, survival, acrobatics, athletics. We got thieves' tools, forgery, charlatan skills, wear some pretty clothes, pretend to be somebody else. Out of combat, we've got all this stuff that we can do, and whenever we want a good roll, we can trade in a second wind to add another d10 that's only used if that roll is successful. Second winds regenerate on a short rest, so we get a lot of opportunities to use these, and I don't think the character needs to be stingy and always save the second winds for combat. This is not a tank. We don't want to be in combat taking damage. So use the tactical mind. Use it up on this character. Level 8 in combat, still incredibly simple. Hex, shoot. If you have advantage from darkness or smoke, you're always using this longbow, getting that Great Weapon Master. If we really need advantage and we can't get it any other way, switch to the short bow, use Vex, chain the advantage from Vex so that you can always be activating that Elven accuracy. Movement is just positioning. Stay within the 10-foot protection of aura from the Paladin at all costs. Stay next to the Paladin. If the Paladin's fighting an enemy, just to talk about the build that we already did with Dalen, he will eventually be a Fiend Pack Warlock and get free hit points for stuff that's killed within 10 feet. Shoot the targets that are close, give him free hit points, benefits that character, benefits the group, kills the things that are closest, and as long as you're within more than 5 feet away, you're fine. Beautiful. Use the short sword and dagger with Nick. If you have advantage in melee from the smoke or from darkness or something like that, where you can, shred stuff. And also that requires you to have good melee weapons. In most campaigns, when you're in a group, you're not going to get a good magical bow and also a good magical short sword and a good magical dagger. So you kind of have to pick your best thing, and in this case, we just want to focus on the bow. The Aeon Stone is great. It allows us to have 20 decks while we focus on other feats and abilities. Vicious Longbow is really better than a +2 Longbow. I'm going to show you how all that comes together. At the rare level, you would always have, if you could craft a rare level Longbow, you're always going to do Vicious over a +2. And craft your arrows. Adamantine arrows, +1 arrows, walloping arrows, winged arrows. Get those things in your inventory, buy them if you need to, whatever. Bracers of Archery is nice. So let's put this all together. Let's do a calculation with Elven Accuracy, a +2 Longbow, Great Weapon Master, Bracers of Archery. And for this calculation, we're going to skip Bless, skip the Iron Stone of Agility. I don't want you guys thinking that that's making a difference here. So with those things out, a D8 weapon, D6 from Hex, +2 from a magical weapon, +4 for your dexterity, +2 from your bracer damage, and +3 from Great Weapon Master. That puts you at 19 damage per hit, and a crit's going to add a D8 and a D6. That's D8 from the weapon and a D6 from the Hex. So that's going to be another 8 damage average on a crit, 27 damage when you crit. So now let's figure out how much damage the character does on average. You have a 10% chance of a crit on the first die. Because we're rolling 3 dice with advantage, there's a 10% chance on each die, but because there's a chance that you already rolled a critical hit with one of your results, you get a 10% for the first die, a 9% for the second die, and then 8 or 9% with the second die, with the third die, so we'll round that down. But in total, there's a 27% chance that one of those 3 dice will be a 19 or a 20. For 27 damage, that'll contribute 7.3 to the average damage per shot. We have a +9 hit with the +2 Longbow. It's a +4 dexterity, +3 proficiency, +2 weapon. So the calculation that I'm doing here is against an AC of 18. I'm not making these calculations against low AC to try to make the numbers look good. I think AC 18 is probably higher than average for a level 8 encounter. So we're going to use an average, you're going to use an armor class of 18 to show you these calculations and show you how good this character is, even at hitting hard to hit targets. We have 3 rolls at an AC 18 with a +9 to hit. That means that 60% of our rolls hit. With 3 dice, that means 94% chance that at least one of those rolls will be a hit. So in terms of regular hits, we have to subtract off the critical hits. 94% of all attacks will hit. 27% of those will be criticals. 67% of them will be shots that hit but don't crit. So now we can contribute 12.6 damage out of that pool. 19.9 average damage for those two things together. We have 2 shots, so it's an average of 38.8 damage per round for 2 shots. And you can double that with Action Surge. Okay, that's not good enough. 38 damage at level 8. I think if you look at damage builds, that's probably in line with what most people would consider a good damage build, but I'm not satisfied with it. So let's talk about critical hit. Just to be clear, and if anybody has a different understanding of the rules, please leave your comments down below. I would love to learn how other people are viewing this, but I'm going to read it. When you score a critical hit, roll the attack's damage twice. Add them together, add any relevant modifiers. For example, if you score a critical hit with a dagger, roll 2d4 rather than 1d4 and add your relevant modifier. If the attack involves other damage dice, you also roll those dice twice. It uses the example of rogue sneak attack, but the sentence is, if the attack involves other damage dice, roll those dice twice. It used to be that all dice got doubled. In the playtest, it changed, but in the rules as presented, I believe it's still all dice involved in the attack get rolled twice. Let's look at Hex. You place a curse on a creature until it ends. You do an extra d6 necrotic damage when you hit with an attack roll. Look at crit. Look at this. It's adding damage to the attack roll, to the damage. Therefore, it doubles with a critical hit. If the attack involves other damage dice, roll those dice twice. The attack involves hex, it gets doubled. I'm ruling it that way for my purposes. So anything that adds damage, those dice are going to double. If you have a different interpretation of the new rule, please let me know in the comments below. If there's been any official errata or something that I haven't seen, I would love to see it. Honestly. Now let's recalculate. We saw that a +2 longbow was giving us 38.8 average damage per round. Let's recalculate, throw away the +2 longbow, same rules. Elven accuracy is enabled. Vicious longbow. The issue with a vicious longbow is that it has no magical bonus. So I don't think magical items stack. I don't think that you can take a vicious longbow and turn it into a +2 vicious longbow. I think it is either vicious or it's +2. You can't combine the two. Again, that's the way I'm ruling it. I don't see any way to over magic things with different magic. So the vicious longbow is a +0 weapon, but it gives you an extra 2d6 damage. 2d6 is what you roll with a greatsword. It is giving you that damage extra every time you swing the weapon, every time you shoot the bow. Crazy. Crazy good, right? We've got Great Weapon Master enabled for a longbow and bracers of archery. Same thing as we had before with the +2 longbow. Now we got a d8 weapon damage, d6 from hex, 2d6 from vicious, 4 from our dexterity, 2 from bracers, 3 from Great Weapon Master, 24 damage per hit. We dropped a +2 on our chance to hit, so now instead of a 60% chance, we've only got a 50% chance to hit that armor class 18, right? Our hit went down from a +9 to a +7. So now we have to roll an 11 or better. When you take those 3 rolls, a 50% chance to hit on the first dice, 50% of that on the second dice takes it to a 75% chance to hit with advantage. With 3 dice, it becomes an 87.5% chance to hit. Your base to hit rate is only 50%, but statistically, 87.5% of the time, one of those rolls, one of those results will be a hit. So here you can see, we can actually give up the +2 on the bow, and we don't mind. It's not changing our reliability of hitting. We went from 94% to 87%, so 1 out of 12 hits, 1 out of 13 hits less. Not that big of a deal. But now our critical hit is going to add the d8 from the bow, the d6 from the hex, and 2d6 from vicious. Being able to get that on the attack and also get it extra on the crit is huge. That takes our crit damage up to 39. Now we calculate it out. 20% of attacks crit 39, 10.5 contribution. 60.5% of shots will hit but not crit for 24. That brings us up to 25 average damage per shot, 50 damage per round. Folks, the difference between 39 damage and 50 damage per round is 25% of the damage, almost more, 30% of the damage. Adding 30% damage at the same level of magical item is not even a contest. The Vicious Longbow for this build wins out by far, and we will never use a different weapon. Now, there's some special weapons at the highest level of the game, artifact things or, creator-made weapons. I'm not going to use those, but Vicious wins. Now, just to show you that the gear doesn't make that big of a difference, if we add Bless and we add the Ioun Stone in to take our dexterity up to 20, these are nice items for the character to have, but overall, it takes the crit damage up to 40, increases it by 1 point. It takes the hit damage up to 25, increases it by 1 point. And the Bless increases the amount of our hit rate to 97% accuracy. So we go up to 56.4 average damage per round. So it adds 6 damage. It went from 50 to 56.4. But it's not as big of a deal as you might think. The Ioun Stone only adds 2 damage. So, yeah, The items, they're nice. Take it or leave it. The build itself, the core of the build is doing all the damage. Close combat. If we wanted to trade it out for close combat, again, ranged attackers lose out. So we're going to take a D6 weapon die for 2 short swords. We're going to lose the 2 from bracers. We're going to lose the 3 from Great Weapon Master, and we're going to make 3 attacks per turn. 27% of attacks crit for 33 damage. 70% of the shots are going to hit but not crit for 19 damage. When we calculate all that out for 2 attacks at 21.5 average and an offhand attack for 17.8, it's 61.4 damage. So we lost the damage from bracers. We lost the damage from Great Weapon Master. We didn't take a feat or anything to improve our 2-weapon fighting, and we're still out damaging the ranged build. So if you want to maximize your damage, this is proof. It's not a joke. It's not fun or funny or a game. It's just that close combat is working better, rules as written, in 2024. But the thing that happens with close combat, if you run in on a character and you kill it in the first hit, you get 2 more attacks to make. If you can't get to another enemy, it's bad, right? You don't make those attacks. If you're attacking at ranged, you're going to get your 2 attacks every turn. It's going to land on a target, and you're going to be satisfied with that. So you could do more damage with close combat. I like this character to stay at range, put in the arrows, put in the work. The damage on this is insanely reliable. As long as you can generate advantage and get those 3 dice from Elven Accuracy, it's insanely reliable damage at even high armor classes. Overall damage, I would say on the high side of average. 50 damage around is nothing to sneeze at level 8. It could be better with 2-weapon fighting, but I like it at 50. The reliability is awesome. And I like also, again, if we want to interrupt spellcasters, doing 25 per hit and triggering a 12 or 13. Maybe we get a lucky crit and get big damage. Those are going to be higher to make a concentration save. The close combat build is rarely going to get over the standard DC 10 check. So we want those big hits to trigger higher DC checks. That's kind of the thought behind the build. So by level 8, we're doing great damage, and I think Whistler's just kind of a wait for it. Somebody else casts Darkness, somebody else has Bless, somebody else has the Paladin aura. We're just hanging out, and when the battle's joined, whoever gets marked as the target to kill, Whistler's going to put the arrows down, and off they go into the night. Easy work. Levels 9 to 14, we go back to Fighter. We're just going to beeline for that Fighter 12. Fighter 11 gets you that 3rd attack. There's nothing else that we can do that's going to get us more damage than getting that 3rd attack per turn. The 3rd attack per turn is going to be enabled on our action surge turns, so we can't do something else to do better than that. So let's just keep going. Get that 3 attacks per turn at level 11 Fighter. And then level 12 is a feat level for Fighter, so we're going to grab that too. Then from there, once we get over level 14, we can look at going back to Warlock and finishing out the build. We want, with the champion build, you get a second fighting style, and for a lot of characters, a second fighting style is kind of like, meh, whatever, it's not a big deal. For this build, it's massive. That's where we grab this +2, so it comes up next level. We're level 8 right now. At next level, we'll get that +2 to attack rolls. And then all the statistics that you saw for the Vicious Longbow are going to apply, or the +2 Longbow. We're going to make up that missed +2 to hit with this archery, and we're going to be off to the races for the rest of our build. Fantastic. So, champion, paying off again. We're going to add the Piercer feat once we're enabling crits. We're going to add another D8, another weapon damage to critical hits. That's good. Mage Slayer then is going to put us over the top with disrupting those big magical hits. And then we can look at later feats being potentially Resilient Wisdom or other things like that. Resilient Dexterity would be good on this character, but we've already capped their Dexterity at 20, so it would be a waste of a stat. You can build the character the way you want to, but for me, I think Resilient Wisdom is the way to go. And make those saves against high level, super nasty effects. Let's get back into the character builder and see what we can get. We'll take the jump straight to fighter 12. Without a whole lot of spells to pick and all that stuff like you do for a caster character, we can just go right into the meat of what we're building. So we get that tactical shift. We get an additional fighting style here at level 7, and we're going to get archery for that. That is fantastic. Boom, +2 to our attack rolls. Ability score improvement. Here we're going to take the Piercer feat, and that is going to give us the dexterity improvement by 1. It puts us at 19 dexterity for now, which isn't that useful. That's why I like to have the Ioun Stone, because it'll allow us to, but we don't have to take the bump to dexterity. We can just use that to carry us until we get 2 feats to get our dexterity to 20. So here we're at 19 dexterity. We get the puncture feature. Once per turn, we can re-roll the dice with a piercing weapon. It's not that big of a deal. We can re-roll a 1 or 2 once per turn. We'll take it, but we're really here for the enhanced critical. When we score a critical hit that deals piercing damage to a creature, we can roll 1 additional damage die when determining the damage that they take. Let's go. All right. Then we get Tactical Master here at 9. When you attack with a weapon whose mastery property you can use, you can replace that property with push, sap, or slow for that attack. This is fantastic. With our longbow, we have the slow feature. Slow can only apply once to a creature per turn, so we could take the first shot with our longbow and slow them, and the second and third attacks at this level, 2 attacks or 3 attacks. The rest of the attacks could be push attacks. So we slow it, push it back, push it back, push it back. Take our action surge, take a bunch more attacks, push it, push it, push it, push it. And then knock it down with a wallop arrow on our last attack. Some funny tactics that you can pull off with this character make it super annoying for your enemies to try to get to you. All right, so I love that. I love being able to use the push feature, or even sap. I mean, giving something disadvantage on its next attack against a creature with multi-attacks. It only affects their next attack, but still, giving them disadvantage. If darkness or smoke isn't doing it, this is a way to give them disadvantage. Weapon mastery. This is our 5th weapon mastery. Take whatever you want. We get some other features here in between, and then we get our feat here that will take us to the Mage Slayer feat. And that again gives us 2 things. Concentration Breaker, damage a creature that's concentrating. It has disadvantage on saving throws to maintain concentration. And then Guarded Mind, if you fail a Wisdom, Intelligence, or Charisma saving throw, you can just succeed instead. Resets on a short or long rest. So you get to roll first and see if you succeed, and only if you don't succeed and is really critical, then you say, okay, I succeed on that one. It's a legendary save per short rest. I think it's really overtuned. So we'll take it, and that gets our dexterity to 20 and frees us up to use something else as an attunement slot. So we'll take the Ioun Stone with Mastery instead. I love these Ioun Stones. They're jewels to craft. They should be easy for any crafter to make. We're at level 14, so I don't mind claiming a legendary item here. Mastery is proficiency is used for Great Weapon Master, right? So adding 1 to our proficiency is going to add 1 to our Great Weapon Master damage. It's also going to add 1 to our proficient saves and skills and all that stuff. So it's really good. But, another +1 to the damage. It's not a big deal, but we don't have other attunement items that we really need. So I'm going to put it on this character just to kind of show you guys what it looks like. We're also going to add a Luck Stone. Again, the 3rd attunement slot is just up for grabs. A Luck Stone is just this nice +1 to skills and saves. Why not? But it's open. I mean, you could use that for a quiver if your DM allows stuff like that. Whatever you want. Have some fun with your attunement slots. Maybe you'll find a different weapon or armor in the game that you want to attune to. It's fun stuff. But here we have a +13 to hit. So at level 14, we're up to a +13 to hit, and a base +7 damage. That doesn't include Great Weapon Master and all that stuff. That's just our +5 from Dexterity and +2 from the Bracers. so we can add a lot more damage on top of that. 114 hit points, decent armor class. It's looking pretty good for Whistler at level 14. Let's check out the damage, make sure we're still on track. Combat's still the same. Cast Hex, position yourself, shoot. Next turn, put Hex on a different target because you killed the other one. Shoot. Your bonus action's always available for Hex. Your attack actions are always available to do tons of damage. I think by this level, we're really going to want to avoid melee. If you're doing the ranged version of the build, let the tanks do their job. You're not afraid of being in close combat. If you do get closed in on, it's fine. But that's not where you want to be. There's plenty of ways in this build. Again, remember, you can always activate your second wind as a bonus action and just walk away without an attack of opportunity regardless. So let's take a look at the weapon damage here. Elven Accuracy, Vicious Longbow, Great Weapon Master, Braces of Archery, Bless, Ioun Stone of Mastery. We'll put all that stuff into the calculation. So our hits at this point are doing 28 per hit. Archery gives us a +2. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of redoing the calculations and showing you all kinds of crazy stuff, I'm going to stick with that idea of a 50% chance to hit as the baseline, just to show you how much damage this character can do on high AC targets. So at level 14, we're going to be able to do a 50% hit against a 24 armor class before Bless. You saw the character sheet, +13. At this level, that means that we would have a 50% base chance to hit 24 armor class. So I'm not talking 10 armor class, I'm not talking 18 armor class. This damage calculation that you see here is 24 armor class. All right? Then we add in Bless. Critting at this level, we've got the Piercer feat. So now we get +D8 from the weapon, +D8 from Piercer, +D6 from the Hex, and 2d6 from a vicious weapon. Our crits are hitting for 47.5. All right, let's translate that into damage. 27% of our attacks are going to be crits, 19 or 20, for 47.5 damage, contribute 12.8 average damage per shot. 95% of all attacks that we make are going to be at least a hit. We'll subtract off the 27% that are crits, so 68% of shots will hit but not crit. 19 damage being added in, 31.8 average damage per hit. We've got 3 shots at this level, so we're at 95.4 average damage per round. All right. We do have Action Surge somewhere in there as well, but I think doing almost 100 damage a round ain't bad. Level 15 to 20. A fighter gets 2 action surges per short rest at higher fighter levels. We would get 2 more feats, but they would both be before level 19 or 20, and we would miss out on epic boons. We could pick up things like Sharpshooter or Resilient Dexterity or other feats, but I don't think there's any regular feats here that we want. We've picked up a lot with our fighter levels, and those couple extra feats are already put us where we want to be on normal feats. Level 18 Champion does have these features of Defy Death and Heroic Rally that are really, I think, really good. And building it that way, I think, would be more durable, give you less damage, but you'd have some tips, you'd have some tricks up your sleeve for if you got in trouble in combat. But I think it's much better to finish this out with a 16-4 build. So levels 15 to 17 would be Fighter, and that would bring us up to Fighter level 15. At Fighter level 15, our crit range extends again, now to 18 to 20. That gives us a 39% chance that one of our 3 dice is going to be a crit. 39% chance that one of those dice will be an 18, 19, or 20. Massive. For Warlock, we pick up a subclass. If you picked up the Fiend subclass, you could get some temporary hit points. There's other Warlock classes that give you interesting features. I like just being a Genie Warlock. It gives you an extra proficiency damage once per turn. The reason I like this is because if you're really trying to disrupt a spellcaster, you want the biggest single hit that you can put on it. Make it make a concentration check at disadvantage with the biggest possible number. Having this Dow Genie, you got to Enemy caster, you have 3 hits. You take a shot, it's not a crit, don't add your genie damage. Take a shot, it is a crit, add your genie damage. Hit for like 71 damage or some ridiculous number, and let them make a DC 35 concentration check with disadvantage. So that's what we want to do here. At least that's the way I see it working with this character. Pick your favorite, it doesn't matter, it's fine, do whatever you want. But taking those 2 Warlock levels here at 18 and 19, 19 is a boon level, so we get a level 4 of Warlock, that's a feat level. At 19 level, we take Irresistible Offense. Irresistible Offense says when you roll a 20, you get an additional damage equal to your ability score. At full level 20, that's going to be 22 damage on a crit when you roll a natural 20. It's awesome. We're going to take it for this character. It also means that things that have resistance to piercing damage or bludgeoning or whatever no longer have resistance to you. Also fantastic. And then at level 20, we go back to that final level of Fighter, Fighter 16. That's a feat level. Get another boon, Combat Prowess. Once per round, make a hit, make a miss into a hit. Done. Boom. So let's take a look. Boon of Irresistible Offense. Bludgeoning, piercing, always ignores resistance. When you roll a 20 on a d20, you add extra damage to the target equal to the ability score increased with this feat. Again, we're going to have 22 dexterity at level 20. Nice. Boon of Combat Prowess, Peerless Aim. When you miss, make it a hit. We have such low likelihood to miss normal armor classes that it basically means on the rare occasion that none of our attacks is a hit, we just make it a hit. So this is virtually 100% hit rate for our attacks now against really high armor classes. Let's take a look. At level 20, we're going to compare ourselves. Our 50% hit chance is now against 26 armor class before Bless. Okay? So the numbers we're looking at are 26 armor class. Everything with lower armor class, we're doing more damage. Everything with higher armor class, it's still going to be close to the same for the next 2 or 3 AC. And even at higher armor classes, remember, we can just automatically make it hit at least once a turn. So now we're up to 30 damage per hit with our normal hits. And we got a +7 that we can add in somewhere with Dow. With crits, if we crit with a natural 20, that's going to be 71.5 damage on that hit when we add in that extra 22. Otherwise, for a crit, it's going to be 49.5. We're going to add 19.5 extra damage. So we'll have almost 50 damage on a crit that rolls an 18 or a 20. Put it all together. 14% of our attacks will be a crit on a roll of a 20 for 71.5 damage. Out of the rest of our crits, 39% will crit. 14 we got to subtract off. So 25% of attacks will be crits that don't happen on a 20. That's a contribution of 27.9 damage per shot. 71% of the shots will hit but not be a crit for 30 damage, contributing 18 damage per shot. So that brings us up to a total for the build of 43.7 average damage per shot at level 20. We've got 3 shots. That's 131 damage. And then we get to throw in that extra 7 from Dow. And that puts us at 138 average damage per round. And that's as simple as every single round. Cast Hex, shoot 3 arrows. Move Hex, cast 3 arrows. Shoot 2 arrows, kill the enemy, move the Hex, shoot your last arrow. It's really, really simple. And I think at level 20, claiming 138 damage from full range, it's not bad. So level 20 melee comparison, Vicious Short Sword, Vicious Dagger, would only do 123 damage with the build that we've done. It's Great Weapon Master is a big loss. The Bracers of Archery, all of that stuff goes away. The D6 versus the D8 of damage makes a big difference when you're talking about crits. But you could build this instead as a 2-weapon fighting close combat build. Instead of Mage Slayer, you go Dual Wielder. If you have a short sword and dagger, now you're doing 5 attacks in a round, right? 3 attacks with the short sword for your attack ability. The nick attack happens during your attack action with the dagger. And Dual Wielder says that you can make an extra bonus attack if you made an attack with the light weapon during your attack action. So that's 5 total attacks per round. Again, if you guys see that differently, let me know in the comments below, but I believe that you get your 3 attacks for fighter, 1 attack for light weapon, and then still trigger the bonus attack for the sword. I should call this a sword, not a rapier, because it's a short sword. And I calculate that out to be 169 damage across 5 attacks. So again, 169 is more than 138, but I would strongly prefer to take my 138 at 400 foot range, right? We've got the arrows. We can use them when we need to touch things at a very long range. We don't have to get into close combat with all the risks that entails at high level. So I like the ranged attack build better, because it keeps this particular character safer. It's not built to tank, so we'll stay out of melee range, and also take advantage of big single target hits that knock the heck out of casters and make it very hard for them to maintain concentration. So there's a lot of other ways to build this. We could add ranger levels. We could get damage from rogue sneak attack. We could, man, I'm telling you, I did a bunch of different builds before I finally settled on this one. Elven Accuracy really puts a crit build over the top. There's a lot of different ways you could do it, but I think the ranged build crit build scales better. It works well with the haste spell. Of course, it works less well with holy weapon or other similar effects, but I think it's good. And again, crit plus Mage Slayer is going to make it very hard for enemy casters, and we can add the magical arrows on top of what we're already doing. So I'm going to make a prediction. For anybody who's made it this far in the video, here's a prediction for you. As optimizers put out videos, I think there's going to be a trend where once people figure out how much damage you can do with just a basic champion crit fisher build and the things in the new Dungeons & Dragons 2024 rules that make crits as good or better than they've ever been, I think there's going to be a lot of builds that are going to dip into 3 levels of fighter for the extended crit range and use crit damage builds to stack damage to a much higher level. I think fighter's overtuned for 2024, and fighter champion is going to slowly but surely be recognized as the premier fighter class. Right now, I think there's a lot of attention on Eldritch Knight because it's cool, it's fun, it's flavorful. There's a lot of role play in that class. Battlemaster's always been a favorite because of the flexibility. But I think a champion fighter with a crit build just straight out damages what the other 2 builds can do, even with their crazy tricks. Even with, cantrips in the middle of your attack sequence and all that stuff. At level 20, we've got a 21 armor class if we're in +3 studded leather. It's okay. It's not good for going into close combat with. 160 hit points, so we can take a hit if needed. We did take that proficiency and wisdom save, so we get strength, con, and wisdom all really good. We have +7 in our dexterity save. It's just naturally high because we got max dex. And as long as we stand close to the paladin, we can take advantage of the paladin aura for another +6 to all of this stuff at the highest levels. So we should be making most of our saving throws, if not all of them, and we do have Mage Slayer as an oopsie if we fail a critical save. So I think the character is extremely safe. Stand next to the paladin and just shoot arrows to your heart's content. Super reliable. I think super fun out of combat, Charlatan scouting skills, adding D10 to these skills when we want to, Crafter making everything he wants to make, breaking enemy concentration, adamantine arrows destroying annoying doors in 1 hit. I mean, fun stuff. And there is this very small chance that you could get 3 crits in the same round. You got a high chance to get 1 attack at least being a critical hit. But imagine if you got all 3 attacks to critical hit in the same round, you could get something like 211 damage in 1 round. And I think you'd feel pretty heroic. If you added Action Surge on top of that, this character can easily put out 250 to 300 damage in a round where you need to. And that will kill a lot of enemies outright in one sequence of attacks with extremely high reliability. That's Whistler, the darkness-tuned ranged attacker. Please leave a like on the way out if you didn't leave one on the way in. Subscribe to the channel, leave comments down below. All that stuff helps me, and I would appreciate if you could do that for me. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next adventure.